Batman trusts no one. He has no friends, nor does he want any, nor does he need any. He'd probably have a plan to destroy them should they ever bring him the wrong takeout or something. I'm mostly joking, but there is a genuine sentiment behind that exaggeration. After all, Batman is beloved because he is more grounded and realistic, embodying the darker and more pessimistic side of not only the world, but human nature. This isn't only reflected in Bruce Wayne himself, but the villains that so plague his caped alter ego. The hero's grim paranoia regarding the powerful beings that surround him collide with a famous member of his aforementioned rogues gallery, Ra's al Ghul, to make for an unforgettable tale in Mark Waid and Howard Potter's JLA issues 43 to 46, known as the Tower of Babel storyline. This tale deals with a variety of contingencies Batman conceives of to contain a potentially rogue Justice League of America. This idea was explored again later by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo in Batman issues 35 and 36 through the deployment of the Justice Buster. Through both of these stories, readers can consider moral issues relating to the handling of heroes gone bad, but there is also a larger point about Batman nestled within the logistical brilliance and intelligent application of resources that characterize his contingencies. But before we get into all that, make sure to subscribe, drop a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss another video from us. Plot Comics is a new channel that we are certainly hoping will grow so that we'll be able to continue sharing these heroic adventures with all of you guys. Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel storyline emphasizes the depths of Batman's paranoia. We all know that he has an extensive rogues gallery that requires his attention daily and would certainly necessitate such madness of suspicion. Yet the distinction lies in the targets of his ire this time around, as the Tower of Babel sees Ra's al Ghul steal some valuable material from Batman regarding his fellow Justice League of America members. These contingency plans contain everything needed to defeat the likes of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Flash should the heroes ever break bad. Cue Ra's implementing of them anyway and the resulting destruction as well as drama, and we have a very compelling bit of superhero fiction. The League convenes to put an end to Ra's machinations, but the damage is done. The story ends with Batman leaving the JLA, following a vote put up by his aggrieved comrades. And in true Batman fashion, he doesn't even wait to hear the result of the vote, he just leaves. It is a narrative characterized by irrational cruelty and rational mistrust, bringing to mind the biblical allusion heralded in the comic arc's title. Found in the book of Genesis, the story of the Tower of Babel involves the ancients attempting to reach heaven by constructing an enormous tower. God, irked by the arrogance of mankind believing they could essentially be him, scrambled the languages of the people and scattered them throughout the world, halting the tower's construction in its tracks. The illusion serves two purposes in the JLA story. 1. Ra's disrupts the language centers of everyone on Earth using a remote signal, thereby reenacting the biblical tale of the people of Earth rendered unable to communicate. 2. The intercommunication between Earth's greatest heroes collapses following the reveal of the source behind the contingencies, leaving Earth's greatest heroes as helpless as the people of antiquity. Justice Buster. A lesser-known episode involving Batman's prowess against the Justice League is perpetuated by the Dark Knight's most reliable nemesis, the Joker. Mr. J's antics usually involve a humorous bent, but are not lacking the poignant touch that makes the villain such a masterclass in being bad. The stakes are monumental this time around, evidenced by the overarching storyline's title, Endgame. The Joker intends for this to be his final hurrah regarding his twisted rivalry with Batman, and he is consequently pulling out all the stops. In a grand return, following his purported death, the Clown Prince of Crime infects a handful of Justice League members with his signature, Joker Venom. Batman dons perhaps one of my favorite batsuits of all time, the Justice Buster, and clears out 10 blocks of Gotham using a harmless gas. With civilian casualties now averted, Batman takes on Wonder Woman, Flash, and Aquaman before his final showdown with the cackling Man of Steel. He manages to subdue each hero using specific means and firepower tailored to their respective abilities and or weaknesses. And the shortcomings of the Justice League that he exploits here are both similar and different to those utilized in Tower of Babel. It is a brief scuffle between the paradigms of collaboration, but again, illustrates how seemingly overprepared Bruce Wayne is for the worst. But to make matters worse, this chapter acts as only a prelude to a much larger plot by his nemesis. Joker would infect the entirety of Gotham's civilian population with the venom, having already secured the majority of the Justice League's incapacitation. There's something to be said about Batman through both of these stories. However, we must first uncover the lengths to which the Caped Crusader prepared for the worst trust in his best friends. Things just don't turn out well when Batman goes against his fellow heroes. He really should knock that off. The plans. So how did Batman do it? How did Ra's al Ghul, armed with the intel of the Caped Crusader, crush the Justice League in a matter of days? How did the Joker, Batman's greatest foe and armed with a handful of superhuman puppets, still fail to bring down a billionaire playboy in a suit of armor? Let's take a look at the protocols Batman has in place for each of the Justice League members and discover how a man with no powers handled all the power in the world. Plastic Man. I never knew how great Patrick O'Brien, better known as Plastic Man, was until I read Tower of Babel. He is basically DC's counter to Mr. Fantastic, the leader of the Fantastic Four, as he is able to stretch his body to exceedingly abnormal proportions. The most substantial elements of the story don't even focus on him, but regardless, Plastic Man surprises with his lighthearted demeanor and efficiency in treating the JLA members after Ra's al Ghul's scheme is revealed. His ability to elongate his limbs serves the heroes well when they must recover the nanites, microscopic technology-based organisms that facilitate Ra's plan from Wonder Woman's occipital lobe. He's funny and lends some comic relief to balance out the heavier themes, but he even serves as an analog for the reader, saying things that seemingly make the most sense considering the hero's predicament. For example, once he JLA regroups, following Ra's al Ghul's enacting of the contingencies, Plastic Man outright refuses to take any more orders from Batman, stating, "I'm not doing anything that means I turn my back on you. Ra's froze me and made me a piñata." At this point, it is appallingly clear how at fault Batman is. Having anyone say what needs to be said is cathartic, and that is exactly what Plastic Man does here. He refuses to act like everything is back to normal, and as a reader, it was impressive seeing a generally low-tier character be the voice of the DC Pantheon. Oh, and the making him a piñata bit? Well, Plastic Man's abilities apparently don't take much to combat, as Batman's plan for him involved freezing, then shattering him with a hammer. And no, not a special or mythological hammer, no, just your regular run of the Home Depot hammer. Plus, it was a low-level goon who took the swing, so yeah, you can see why he's so upset. Plastic Man votes Batman out of the JLA at the end. Martian Manhunter. John Jones, known to most as the Martian Manhunter, is Ra's first target, and the eco-terrorist does not disappoint in demonstrating his fatal intentions. Martian Manhunter's abilities include shapeshifting, superhuman durability, and super strength, but his primary weakness is significantly more basic: fire. Talia, Ra's daughter, is tasked with taking down the Manhunter and does so with a missile carrying a special kind of microscopic robot. These nanites bond to the Manhunter's skin and turn trace elements into magnesium, causing the hero to burst into flames. He remains on fire and consequently torches a forest in Germany before Wonder Woman and the Flash find and douse him. He is then placed in a healing tank of some kind. Honestly, my first instinct is to call it a Bacta tank for all you Star Wars fans out there. Keeping the Manhunter submerged prevents him from further spontaneous combustion, but once a League of Assassins attacks his fellow JLA members at Green Lantern's apartment, the hero can no longer remain helpless. He equips a suit designed for Atlanteans that keeps the wearer submerged and dispatches the attackers at the apartment before learning the truth about this attack on the Justice League. Demonstrating his quick thinking, Martian Manhunter later discards the suit after he sheds enough skin cells to eradicate the magnesium. Despite this horrific ordeal, Manhunter votes to keep Batman on the Justice League roster afterward. He cites the idea that as relatively easy as it was to take a good Justice League down, it is probably far more complicated to bring down a rogue one. Fortunately for Martian Manhunter, he is not a member of the Justice League during the Joker's reemergence. If so, it probably wouldn't be a stretch to imagine that the Justice Buster would easily be equipped with a flamethrower or a kitchen stove. Green Lantern. The predicament that Kyle Rayner finds himself in during the events of Tower of Babel are pulled straight from the shadows of a horror film. At least it's initially portrayed that way when Wonder Woman and the Flash go to Rayner's apartment amidst the JLA's other members falling under attack. The first issue ends with a terrifying shot of the Green Lantern, his eyes a pale white, leaving the reader to theorize what is affecting him. The follow-up issue clarifies that Kyle has been struck with a peculiar form of blindness. He had simply woken up and found that he could no longer see anything. Consequently, with his sight gone, he can no longer competently form his lantern constructs or direct them towards a specific target. He is effectively rendered useless. That is, until the cause of his blindness is revealed, and it is crazy clever. Given a Green Lantern's powers are fueled by the individual's willpower, Kyle's belief therefore affects his reality. The League of Assassins had situated the power ring onto Kyle's finger as he slept, then employed post-hypnotic suggestion to render himself blind. The Martian Manhunter demonstrates the validity of this by having Kyle remove the ring, and he is therefore able to see once again. Not only does Kyle get duped with such an artful tactic of deception, but his privacy is also violated. I mean, come on, we are talking about a low-level League of Assassins goon whispering into Green Lantern's ear while he sleeps. And that would be more than enough for me to vote Batman out of the Justice League simply for giving them that idea. But Kyle Rayner proves a bigger man than I, as he sides with the Martian Manhunter in backing Batman's continued membership in the group. Though it might have been interesting to see how the Green Lantern fared against the Justice Buster, I don't think Batman would have let it get that far. A lullaby with the power ring on, and any of the lanterns are comatose for the weekend. Aquaman. With the King of Atlantis, Batman seemed to channel his rogues gallery in developing an effective way of containing Aquaman, specifically Scarecrow, as the League of Assassins enacts the Caped Crusaders' plan of gassing Arthur Curry with fear toxin, imbuing him with a deliciously ironic fear of water. It is made all the more tragic by the fact that Aquaman was trying to save his fellow JLAer, Plastic Man, when the gas is deployed. At first, it seems a harmless use of Dr. Crane's magnum opus of toxins, but it proves chillingly palpable once Aquaman becomes dehydrated and consequently begins suffocating due to his lack of water. Nevertheless, Arthur stays on duty throughout the episode, exemplifying the tenacity that has made him such a cult favorite. Eventually though, even the mighty must fall, and Aquaman is sedated and placed in a Bacta tank. His dreams are of an endless desert, no H2O in sight, until the drugs keeping him under start to wear off. Suddenly, the desert is overcome with waves like the ocean, and Arthur panics as he awakens. However, the Martian Manhunter is able to bring him around to his right mind as the toxin wears off. Aquaman remains the most agitated of the heroes as a result of this episode. He votes to expel Batman from the JLA at the conclusion of the story. Frankly, Aquaman's performance against the Justice Buster is hilarious in how downright embarrassing it is. He is not on the page for more than a panel or two before Batman covers him in powdered magnesium carbonate. This substance absorbs moisture from Aquaman's body the more he struggles against it, resulting in a pretty pitiful showing from the King of Atlantis. Admittedly, it would be fun to see Jason Momoa's version of the character and do this humiliation. It sounds like a joke ripped right out of the Peacemaker show. Wonder Woman. To truly defeat an opponent, one must understand said opponent's motives, values, what gets them moving every day. Batman, a master of combat, is aware of this and implements it in his contingency for Diana, aka Wonder Woman. She serves as an avatar of truth, enlightening the ignorant and uninitiated as to the good moral way of treating others and oneself. To counteract this, the League of Assassins deploy a specialized nanite that attaches itself to Diana's occipital lobe, the part of the brain concerned with visual perception. As a result, Wonder Woman perceives herself as participating in a never-ending duel with an opponent that can match her move for move. The symbol of truth suspended in a virtual reality that has very concrete consequences. Given the heroine's refusal to give in, the duel will only end with Wonder Woman dying of a heart attack. And I know this went from comic book to real life in the span of a panel. Her face as she lies on the ground helpless is pretty haunting too. Thankfully, with some creative assistance from Plastic Man, the nanite is removed from Wonder Woman's brain and she is able to regain her stamina. She, like Aquaman, possesses the spirit of a warrior. However, also like Aquaman, she retains a bitterness about her ordeal and it taints her relationship with Batman. She joins Aquaman and Plastic Man in voting to kick Bruce out of the Justice League. Wonder Woman gets some revenge when she busts through the window of Old Wayne Tower and attacks Bruce while he's recovering from some fear toxin-induced nightmares. She is the first opponent that faces the Justice Buster once Batman gets his bearings, of course, and fares substantially well against it, all things considered. Similar to his contingency in Tower of Babel, Batman utilizes the concept of truth and deception to temper the Amazonian. Bruce uses the Bind of Veils, the mythological counter to the lasso of truth that envelops Wonder Woman in an illusion. This one perpetuates her belief that she actually won against the Justice Buster and the battle is over. This keeps her occupied so that in reality, Batman can move on to the next opponent, who also happened to be the fastest man alive, the Flash. Batman's take no prisoners approach to incapacitate in the JLA first reared its head with Wonder Woman's heart attack-induced illusion. The hero's brutal streak continues with his theoretical handling of the Flash, the Wally West version, though the League of Assassins brings it to reality after shooting Wally with a vibrating projectile that dispenses a nanite capable of affecting him at the speeds he travels. Further, this nanite caused the Flash to have epileptic seizures at light speed. Again, the comic book storyline becomes starkly real as the fastest man is relegated to this state for a while before Superman manages to destroy the nanite courtesy of his heat vision. It is understandable and undoubtedly relatable that these heroes, particularly the likes of Flash and Wonder Woman, would hold a significant grudge against Batman for these events. The physical pain being inflicted upon them hits home a little harder for readers as it feels a lot more human. Yet amazingly, Wally sides with the Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern in voting to keep Batman on the roster of the JLA following these events. Admirably patient or a sucker. Weirdly enough, I think Batman would even say the latter. The Flash, this time the Barry Allen incarnation, briefly faces off against the Justice Buster before he's incapacitated. And usually that's all the Flash needs, a brief moment, but even Batman detractors can agree the man is always prepared. Told at a lightning fast pace within a couple of panels, the Justice Buster matches the Flash's speed as he latter approaches. Batman dispenses a generous amount of frictionless coating into the path of the Scarlet Speedster, causing him to careen out of control and crash into a nearby building. And while that's not the most impressive showing, Aquaman thinks he can follow it up with the whole getting owned by powdered magnesium carbonate thing, so at least that worked in Flash's favor here. Superman. Batman vs. Superman. The matchup of the century. The bout of the supers. The duel of the dynamics. It is a trope that is repeated for good reason. It is super interesting. Pardon the pun. Plus, it is given a sobering twist during Tower of Babel, which sees Batman design plans to synthesize a new kind of kryptonite. Red kryptonite, capable of basically overpowering Superman and converting him into a living, ticking time bomb of energy. It feels all too personal, doesn't it? Batman both envies and fears the power that Superman possesses, so the detective uses that very advantage against the Man of Steel. It certainly takes a personal tone throughout the story as Superman persists, regardless of the context, with the one question he wants Batman to answer: why? The answer is never properly given, left up to the reader to discern from the Caped Crusader's actions, behavior, and history. Batman continues this history during his climactic battle with the Jokerized Superman. The Justice Buster is equipped with specialized gauntlets bearing a similar substance to the red kryptonite, at least in color. Microscopic red suns collected from dead solar systems, which prove superbly damaging to the Man of Steel as the two battle. Superman's power seemingly knows no bounds though, and he proceeds to destroy the Justice Buster armor using pieces of the Gotham Royal Theater. Once he pulls Bruce from the wreckage, he flies his old friend high above the clouds, only to be spat on by Batman. And I know what you're thinking, but this is not just a bitter detective's insulting gesture. The liquid he spits is actually a butadiene-based synthetic rubber laced with radioactive kryptonite dust, which Alfred affectionately calls kryptonite gum. And DC, I mean, the marketing writes itself. Let's make this kryptonite gum thing happen. Now, a couple times throughout this video, I mentioned that there is a larger point to these two stories regarding Batman. Yes, he is an invaluable part of the Justice League and is undoubtedly skillful in many regards. But perhaps that is exactly what we should be worried about. He has demonstrated that he can take out the entirety of Earth's modern pantheon of heroes. And this was just Ra's al Ghul implementing the plans. Should Batman have been made to put these plans into motion himself, it may have been even more methodical in its execution. He worries himself about protecting humanity from any threat, be it out of control friend or malicious foe, yet the question must be asked, is Batman actually the greatest threat to humanity? It seems an avenue of thought the creators behind these stories certainly want us to go down, and frankly, I think Batman himself would encourage this thinking. Consider him a threat and have a contingency for every foreseeable outcome. This may result in some prevented catastrophes, but again, let's reiterate, Batman has no friends. So do we really want to end up like him in the end? Probably not. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.